Prevention is always better than cure. What we're doing here is preventative maintenance rather than corrective maintenance. So I love doing this, touching the plants, connecting with the plants. Probably the world's most expensive algae scraper. Hi everyone, and welcome to this special deep dive video on exactly how I maintain this beautiful aquascape in my home. This is an Aquascape Highline 400, measures around 100 gallons or so, or 400 litres. It's been running for, well, in various iterations for a few years now. The hardscape hasn't changed, the plants have changed considerably, and the fish have also changed. I did keep discus in here originally. There are videos on those on my channel, of course. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet, and leave me a comment. What's your favourite plant in here, and what's your favourite fish? We'll talk about those in more detail later. But the purpose of this video is to show you the exact process of what I go through every week or so in how I maintain this. I think it's surprisingly simple to maintain, even though it's a relatively large aquarium. We have some beautiful equipment on here that help to keep it well maintained, but of course us as the aquarium keeper do need to do some maintenance, and maintenance is an interesting one for me. Recent years I've really learnt to love the maintenance process. You know, the kind of typical thing is to really enjoy looking at an aquarium, and you kind of always offsetting your sense of kind of contentment on how that aquarium looks. Maybe in the future you're kind of always thinking, oh, when it gets to this level I'm going to really enjoy it. But actually the real joy is the process, and part of the process is maintenance. And if you can learn to love the maintenance, then I would argue that you can really, really love to learn the hobby as a whole. So even if you experience algae issues, dying plants, unhealthy fish, you can use these as opportunities to learn and grow rather than a source of unhappiness. So it's that kind of mindset shift from, or just basically a positive mindset. Sounds a bit cheesy, but it does work. And I've really learnt to love the process over the outcome. So really, in cheesy speak, it's all about the journey and not the destination. And this is a great example of that. You know, I've really loved maintaining this. It's relatively easy to maintain, as we'll show you later. There's no stem plants in here, so plant growth is super easy to maintain. Liquid fertilizers I just dose every day. Big water change every week. Clean the filters every week. We'll go through the whole thing. Clean the glass, obviously. I've got a really cool tool to show you that I got given as a present yesterday. So yeah, really excited to share this deep dive video with you. Really hope you enjoy it. And yeah, let's get started. First job, nice and easy. Let's pop the lid, which is simple push to release. And then that hinges back like so. And we can actually remove the whole lid if we want to, or we can just leave it to hang back there. I'll remove it completely now, nice and easy. It's a composite material, so it doesn't rust. Nice and light, nice and strong. And one of the great features about the Highline is that it doesn't have any cutouts or holes at the back of the tank, so there's no chance of any escaping fish or shrimp. We achieve that because it's got a dry weir in the rear left there, and that allows the fitment of the hoses to come through that rather than over the back of the aquarium. Another advantage of that is that we can have the aquarium positioned all the way back to the wall, thus saving your living space. So that's the lid removed. Now let's talk about the lighting in some detail. Slightly awkward topic, this one. This is the lighting that I'm using in here. And just before I start, a full disclaimer, I'm using Twin Star LED lights in here, and these are not designed to be used under a hood. I have had a warning from the Twin Star people that they're not designed for that. There's a little bit of potential for overheating, but I've been using it for over a year now with absolutely no issues. So I'm comfortable, but I'm also comfortable knowing that they could fail, and that's down to my responsibility. So I take no responsibility for you guys using this under a hood and having any failures. So I'll just get that out of the way right now. The lights themselves, I have a Twin Star 1200S and a 900S. Now interestingly, I only use the 900S all the way to the rear of the aquarium for the entire photo period. So that's 9 hours, the Twin Star 900S all the way to the back of the tank. And then for just 3 hours of burst, I have the 1200S for the middle of that photo period. And the reason for that is, you might be able to guess, the 900S all the way to the back is fantastic for getting those red colours, that red pigmentation in those beautiful Amazon swords. And also you will notice maybe towards the front of the aquarium we have a lot of low light tolerant plants, shade loving plants such as Anubias and Cryptocorynes. So it makes sense that we don't blast them with too much light with the 1200. Thus I've only had that on for 3 hours. But we do want to blast the Echinodorus, the Amazon swords, to get the best growth possible. And this combination is working like a dream for me. I'm not experiencing any algae at all, hardly, on the Anubias, which we normally do experience in aquariums, especially high energy aquariums. So it works really well. It's just a shame that the twin stars aren't designed to be used under a hood. But actually, you know, the heat dissipation is fairly good. You know, the composite material does conduct a lot of the heat away from the lid, and there's no significant temperature rise in the aquarium water either. And yeah, the trade-off, or in the benefits, as you can see, fantastic colour rendition, fantastic plant growth, and I'm really happy with this lighting solution. I use mechanical timers. I know a lot of you guys might use smart plugs, etc. these days, but I'm old school. I love to have that kind of manual control. We don't get many power cuts here in the UK, thankfully, so happy to use the plug-in timers. They last for many, many years before failing, and so yeah, that's the way to go. They cost a few pounds from my local supermarket, and yeah, no issues there. Okay, next job I'd like to do is clean the glass. I've got two main tools I use for this. The Aquascape algae magnet. This is the floating type, so if it accidentally comes off, the internal portion floats to the surface rather than sinks to the bottom, which can be super frustrating. But you do need to be really careful using an algae magnet. You can trap sand particles or gravel particles or anything hard, and it can scratch the glass. I do have a few scratches already on here, so obviously I've not been careful enough. So we could do the majority of the glass quite quickly with this scraper, the algae magnet I should say. And it doesn't take long. I try to do it every other day or so just to prevent any build-up. And with maintenance, prevention is always better than cure. What we're doing here is preventative maintenance rather than corrective maintenance. So addressing any issues before they can even happen. Corrective maintenance is the issue's already occurred and you need to take corrective action, which is usually a bit more frustrating, can take longer, and yeah, prevention is better than cure. I'm sure everyone's heard of that phrase before. So I'll just do the whole aquarium now quickly. And a top tip is that you can look down the edge of the aquarium, and it's very easy to see if you've missed any spots. Now I've deliberately kept away from the bottom of the aquarium because I don't want to trap any particles. We'll use a proper scraper for that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And also another interesting thing is actually when you're using the algae magnet, I don't know if you can hear this, it actually makes a different note in acoustics as the algae magnet is actually contacting the stubborn algae. Really, I can try to get the microphone near it. You can hear that, whereas when there's no algae, there's no sound at all. So, and I can actually see there's some very, very stubborn, slightly like spots of algae down here, which we'll remove with the scraper shortly. So let's do this side as well. And you can just move I've got the Aquascape crystal skimmer here, which we can just temporarily move over here. We'll talk about maintaining that shortly as well. And then you can hear that scraping again there. Okay, and I'll just like to check the edges, make sure it's all clean. That's good. That's good down there. There's a bit around the middle here that I need to do a bit more. Some nasty scratches here. And now I just move that out of the way up there. And that is the majority of the glass cleaned. Now I'm going to talk about a very special tool. Okay, probably the world's most expensive algae scraper, and thank you so much to Dave from Aquarium Gardens for gifting it to me after our workshop yesterday. I'll leave a link to that in the description. 3 hours, set up an Aquascape Line 90, start to finish, watch the whole video. Really great fun, great audience, and check it out. But yeah, he gave me this. I've always wanted one. I've never sort of Well, basically I'm too tight to buy one myself because I can get equivalent results with other tools. Like I've got an Aquascape scraper here. It does the same job, but it is nowhere near as fancy as one of these. It does have a detachable razor, and it just makes cleaning stubborn algae an absolute breeze. These really kind of green spot algae, I want to say it is. It's really quite tricky. The algae magnet doesn't shift it at all. So over the months, I've been a bit lazy and not scraped it off, and it's really built up. So perfect opportunity to use my brand new ADA Pro razor. So thanks, Dave. Okay, next job is to siphon for our water change. I leave the filters running, but I have unplugged the Aquascape crystal surface skimmer. I've got a contraption here. This is a really long hose that goes into my back garden to feed the lawn and the plants. Also fill up some watering cans for the house plants. And then I've got this other sort of flexible hose here attached so that I can just kind of wave my hand around. I love doing this, touching the plants, connecting with the plants. Dislodges any organic waste, detritus, etc. Particularly important around the substrate at the front here. And you can really easily target any necessary areas. Just give it a wave around. Occasionally it will suck up a little bit of gravel, that's okay. But yeah, that's the process. So I'll just work my way along the tank, playing with all the plants, getting rid of any dislodged waste organics that settle on the leaves that can potentially lead to algae if it doesn't get removed. I do have about 30 to 50 amano shrimp in here, which do actually like to occasionally feed on the Amazon swords. I might be able to get some close-ups of any areas that they've nibbled later. But yeah, it's really important, this part of the process. The water change, obviously, it helps to really reduce any build-up of organic waste in general that's dissolved in the water. But you should also use it as an opportunity to mechanically remove as much organic waste as possible too. I do this every week or so. Recently I've been leaving it 10 days. I have left it up to 2 weeks between water changes with no issues. I do have two very large filters, the Aquascape Biomaster 850s, which we'll talk about in more detail later when we maintain those. So that obviously helps to maintain water quality. But we're going to be doing around about 50% water change today. You might be able to see the floating debris in the video footage, I'm not sure. But it's quite a significant amount. It's quite surprising how much waste is produced. There are quite a lot of fish in here, of course. There's probably around 50 or 60 fish, but they're all relatively small. Maybe more actually, more like 70 fish. But yeah, it's a 100-gallon tank. You can easily handle that, and two large filters. The filters are used as well for circulation as well as the filtration. They're both positioned, the outlets are both positioned to the rear left. This creates a nice gyre circulation pattern around the whole aquarium. I have inline CO2, which is fitted to one of the filters. That gets blasted along the back of the aquarium, feeds mostly the Amazon swords, which are very hungry. And then any leftovers will get to the front of the aquarium to feed the crypts and the anubias. You know, crypts and anubias, so easy, don't need much light, don't need much CO2, so that's okay. They don't need all that CO2 that's getting fired around the back of the aquarium. So we can pay a bit more attention to the substrate here. This is just a mixture of elderly gravel. It's taken on this nice algae coating, which actually looks more natural now. When I did put it in from new, it did look quite sparse and, you know, really contrasted with these sort of weathered rocks, which is actually a millennium stone, I believe. Or georock, in fact. Yeah, it's georock and a mixture of georock and Sirius stone. But it's got a lovely patina, it's got this lovely weathered algae kind of covered look, but there's hardly any nuisance algae. I do have a little bit of BBA, black beard algae in here, but it's nowhere near enough to sort of cause me any problems, any issues, as long as it doesn't get any worse, which it isn't. So always happy to live with a little bit of background algae. Now, a lot of folk really get obsessed about having an algae-free aquarium, which is, in my mind, impossible if you have a natural system. You know, we're dealing with lighting, we're dealing with nutrients, we're dealing with water, and as soon as you have those three things together, you will, at some point, inevitably experience some algae at some. And depending on your perception of what an issue is, you know, some people can tolerate more algae than others. But I would suggest try to be happy tolerating at least a little algae, because otherwise it can drive you crazy. I'm just going to have a look at any of the Amazon sword leaves that need removing. If it's overgrown, we can simply remove the leaf to maintain overall aesthetic balance. If there's any that have been particularly nibbled by the Amano shrimp, I'll remove those as well. What can happen is that leaf will try to repair itself, which uses a lot of energy, but it's much better for that plant to use that energy to regrow a new leaf. So we're quite lucky at the moment. There doesn't seem to be much damage from the Amano shrimp at the moment. I have been feeding extra algae wafers to keep them satisfied. But this ocelot green here, this could do with thinning out a little bit. So what I do simply is run my finger all the way to the bottom as far as you can. So to the bottom of the plant where it's in the soil. And then, so you can't go any further with your fingertip, then just give it a sharp, purposeful tug. You might have heard that. And then you've removed that leaf. And that's going to eventually generate a new leaf. And we can just repeat that process until we've achieved our desired aesthetic balance. So all the way to the bottom, sharp tug, and there we go. I think that's all that we need to do today for the Amazon swords. Similar story with the crypts, exactly the same process. I'll have a look to see if there's any damaged leaves. There's one here. So run my finger all the way to the bottom, sharp pull, and away it comes. And then we dispose of these sensibly, so there's no chance of them becoming invasive in nature. So I'll put these in my compost bin. And that is the plants maintained. And we carry on with our water change halfway down, and then we refill. Okay, nearly half empty now. It's really important that as the aquarium's draining, you'll notice that these Echinodorus leaves are drying out, so we really need to keep them wet, otherwise it can really damage the plant tissue. Once Echinodorus is adapted to underwater growth, it's very sensitive to drying out, so misting like this is essential when we're doing large water changes. Other species that are sensitive are Bulbitis, and I would suggest any plants really. Once they've adapted to underwater growth, try to keep them as wet as you can whilst doing the water change. So simple spray mister helps achieve that. Okay, the tank's half empty now. It's time to fill up with our fresh dechlorinated temperature adjusted water. And while it's filling up nice and slowly, we can do some filter maintenance. Sorry for the background noise, but it is what it is. Okay, so now it's time to maintain the filters. Super easy with the Algae Biomasters with a quick release pre-filter. Done plenty of videos on these before, so don't need to go into too much detail, but switch the filters off, of course, and then unlock here, and slide it out a touch. And then out it comes. And then the same with this one. Okay, now we clean those in my kitchen sink, running tap water, takes a couple of minutes, and then refit. Super simple. Okay, that's the pre-filters maintained. There are videos on this before, but just to show you quickly, all you have to do is, there's two locking tabs here that you push in, you remove that, and then you take all of these concentric sponges out, slide them off, give them a good squeeze under the running tap water in the sink, wherever you do it. You can use chlorinated tap water. These are just purely mechanical pre-filters, so it doesn't matter if you're using chlorinated tap water. All of the biological media is in here, of course. And then what I like to do is also clean the this pipe here with a hose brush, just to make sure it's maximum flow rate through there. Also run a hose brush through these areas here, just to keep it all super clean and to maximise the flow. These do tend to reduce the flow rate once they're clogged, so it's important to clean these as frequently as you like. I clean them once a week, or every time I do a water change, which is between 7 and 14 days, every 7 or 14 days. I clean these as well. And it's surprisingly how much crap, whatever word you want to use, waste organics that gets released from these. And these are perfect because they're just stopping all of that waste organics from getting in here, and then the internals of this filter remain clean for many, many months. So it's a really, really great product. I love the Aquascape Biomaster filters. It's actually one of the biggest reasons that I'm one of their ambassadors. So big shout out to Aquascape and their amazing filters. There's a lot of kind of controversy about like air leaking and purging and stuff like this. I've never really had any issues. The biggest thing that I would suggest is just make sure your pre-filters are kept clean, and make sure all your fittings are really tight and everything's nice and secure, and you shouldn't have any issues. A lot of people change the media in the filters to other brands. I just keep the supplied media, sponges, and there's some plastic biological rings as well in there. And as you can see, it works perfectly just with the supplied media. There are 2 filters on here. We could get away with 1, but I like that added circulation. So just refit those now. And refit the other one. Put those back. I give them a good old prime, and then we can switch them on, hopefully. Yeah, there we go, nice and easy. Also come with the built-in heaters as well, so yeah, 800 watts in total of heating in here if we need it. I have quite a warm house, so those will hardly ever come on, and I run this at around 23, 24 degrees Celsius. So that's the filters maintained, the water's being changed. I use a Fritz dechlorinator, Fritz Complete, to dechlorinate the tap water here. I just have hard tap water. It's probably like 350 TDS out of the tap, which is fairly hard, or very hard in some cases, I guess. And as you can see, it's no problem. We're growing Amazon swords, Crips, Anubias, all easy plants, and the fish are very happy in here as well, as you can see. Okay, almost finished maintaining the tank now. One of the last jobs I do is clean the skimmer. Super easy with the Aquascape Crystal Skim. You can actually maintain it whilst it's running. So just remove the floating portion there, get some tweezers, and then just pull out the sponge. There's some snails that have come out, and then you can see a load of debris in there. Rinse that under a running tap. I'll come back in a moment. Okay, nice and clean now. Just pop that back in again, and then replace the floating portion. And there is the skimmer maintained. There is a full video on the Aquascape Crystal Skim on the Aquascape UK YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to that. We go through a deep dive, unboxing it and how it all works, etc. So consider checking it out. It's an amazing skimmer, really super easy to maintain, very effective, and a really great alternative to the other skimmers on the market. Okay, that's the Aquascape pretty much maintained now. Other activities that we do, generally speaking, after every maintenance session, I always use Fritz glass and acrylic cleaner. Really, really great product. Leaves a really cool micro layer to make polishing the glass really easy, water repellent, non-toxic. It's definitely my go-to glass cleaner. Streak free, yeah, really, really cool. I've actually run out, so I need a new bottle. Every day also dose liquid fertilizer. My current fertilizer that I'm using is APT Complete by the 2 Hour Aquarist, very concentrated, dosing 10 squirts a day. Also had great results with Tropico Specialised Nutrition, and also we'll be using the new Aquascape fertiliser range soon in a brand new Scopoline 60 high-tech setup. Excited to bring you a full step-by-step video coming soon. And of course, the final thing we do is feed the fish every day, normally twice a day in fact. I use a mixture of different organics brands. This is the Daily Flakes, also have Power Flakes, and also algae wafers. I think they're called veggie tabs, especially for the amano shrimp to keep them from munching the Amazon swords too much. I'll close it there and leave you some footage of all the fish and all the plants. Let me know what your favourite fish and plants are. My favourite is probably the Anubias petite. It's looking absolutely magnificent. There's hardly any nuisance algae on it. I'm sure one of the most popular will be the red Amazon swords. There's a combination of the Echinodorus red diamond and red flame. There's the ocelot green there on the left. We've got Anubias mini coin, which is a smaller version of the petite, very sort of round leaf. Various crypts, too many to mention really. Nice sort of chaotic blend of those to give it a natural appearance. And I don't know if you can see this here. I'll get a close up of this Anubias mini coin that I've managed to plant attached to the kind of small pebbles down here on the left. Absolutely the cutest plant that I've ever grown. It's just growing like one leaf a month almost, no algae on it, and it's just absolutely perfect. I don't know why, I just absolutely love this little plant down here. Fish wise, we've got blueberry tetras. That's the most common species in here. There's about 30 of those. We've got a combination of lemon and orange tetras, and then we have the bentosai tetras and marbled hatchets and the lampies. What I'll do, I'll leave, well, see how easy it is to get macro footage of those. If I can't manage it too easily, I'll just lay over some still photos. I actually took originally for a Practical Fish Keeping magazine article recently, so really great to get back into photography again. Speaking of which, working on a book project with Ty Streetman, as many of you may know, working hard on those photos, over 1,000 photos to edit for that. We'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet, hit the like button, share the video if you can, really appreciate it. Really enjoyed making this one for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed watching it all the way to the end. Thank you if you managed to watch it all the way to the end. If you have, drop me a comment below and I'll definitely love heart it. There's not many people watch it all the way to the end, and it's quite a long one, I guess. It's probably going to be about half an hour or so. All right, so I'm going to stop rambling now. Take care. See you in the next one. Cheerio.